The historic city of Rome became the focal point for intense diplomatic engagement as the United States and Iran resumed critical nuclear negotiations on Friday, May 23, 2025. These discussions, the fifth round of their kind, mark a renewed effort to bridge the significant chasm that exists between the two nations regarding Iran's nuclear program. Representing the United States were Senior Advisor and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, alongside Policy Planning Director Michael Anton. Their Iranian counterpart, Foreign Minister Abbas Araqchi, led the delegation from Tehran, engaging in over 2 hours of both direct and indirect talks, a testament to the complex and often fraught nature of their relationship. The facilitation by Omani mediators underscores the crucial role third parties play in navigating such sensitive international dialogues. The core of the disagreement, a persistent stumbling block in previous attempts at resolution, remains firmly centered on the issue of uranium enrichment. The United States, driven by profound non-proliferation concerns, is reportedly advocating for a stringent ban on Iran's capability to enrich uranium. Conversely, Iran staunchly insists on its inalienable right to enrich uranium for what it describes as peaceful civilian purposes, a position deeply entrenched in its national policy and rhetoric. This fundamental clash of perspectives set a challenging tone for the talks from the outset, with both sides arriving in Rome with seemingly intractable positions on this pivotal aspect of any potential nuclear accord. The international community watches with bated breath, fully aware of the high stakes involved. Despite the gravity of the differences, a senior U.S. administration official characterized the initial discussions as constructive, noting that further progress had been made, while also cautiously adding that there is still work to be done. This carefully optimistic language suggests that while major breakthroughs were not immediately forthcoming, the channels of communication remain open and functional. On the Iranian side, Foreign Ministry spokesman Esmaeil Baghaei highlighted the delicacy of the current round, telling reporters on Friday that this round of talks is especially sensitive, reflecting the heightened awareness within Tehran of the potential ramifications of these diplomatic encounters. Both delegations have agreed to reconvene in the near future, signaling a mutual, albeit cautious, willingness to continue the arduous process of negotiation. The resumption of these talks does not occur in a vacuum. It follows a period of heightened tensions and concerns over Iran's advancing nuclear capabilities, including its stockpile of near-weapons-grade enriched uranium and developments in its missile program. The shadow of past agreements and subsequent withdrawals looms large, reminding all parties of the fragility of diplomatic achievements in this domain. The global political landscape, too, has shifted, adding new layers of complexity. For Iran, as some analysts suggest, these talks might be a strategy to blunt maximum pressure, ward off potential military action, and prevent the reimposition of European sanctions, thereby creating a complex web of motivations that negotiators must navigate with extreme care and foresight. Iran's position on uranium enrichment is not merely a negotiating tactic. It is presented as a fundamental right and a cornerstone of its national sovereignty and technological aspirations. This was articulated with stark clarity by Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araqchi on Friday, who stated unequivocally on the social media platform X, "Zero nuclear weapons equals we do have a deal. Zero enrichment equals we do not have a deal. Time to decide." This powerful declaration leaves little room for ambiguity, signaling to Washington and the international community that any agreement failing to acknowledge Iran's enrichment capabilities is, from Tehran's perspective, a non-starter. This firm stance reflects a deeply held conviction within the Iranian establishment. This resolute view is further reinforced by Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who has consistently criticized Washington's reported calls for a ban on all uranium enrichment. For Iran, the pursuit of nuclear technology, including enrichment, is framed as a matter of national pride and a critical component of its scientific and technological development. The argument often put forward is that access to peaceful nuclear energy, which necessitates enrichment capabilities, is an undeniable right for any nation. While Iran's current nuclear energy output constitutes less than 1% of its total energy consumption, the insistence on enrichment rights is also tied to future energy security planning and a desire to reduce reliance on foreign fuel supplies, which can be subject to political pressures. The historical context of Iran's enrichment activities is also crucial to understanding its current posture. As noted by Behnam Ben Taleblu of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, Iran has not stopped enriching uranium at various levels since April 2006, when this entire crisis really was kicked off. This long-standing commitment, spanning nearly 2 decades, has resulted in significant investment in infrastructure and human capital dedicated to its enrichment program. Dismantling this program entirely, or even severely curtailing it to the point of zero enrichment, would be viewed by Tehran not only as a technological setback, but also as a capitulation to external demands, something the leadership is keen to avoid for both domestic and international reasons. Therefore, the non-negotiable nature of uranium enrichment for Iran stems from a potent combination of national pride, strategic calculations regarding energy independence, a deep-seated mistrust of foreign powers potentially withholding nuclear fuel, and the substantial technological and financial investment already made. It represents a red line that Iranian negotiators have consistently refused to cross. Any diplomatic solution aiming for long-term viability must find a way to address Iran's asserted rights while simultaneously satisfying the international community's legitimate concerns about nuclear proliferation, a truly formidable challenge for all parties involved in the current talks in Rome. The United States approaches the negotiating table with a starkly different objective, primarily centered on ensuring that Iran's nuclear program remains exclusively peaceful and poses no threat of weaponization. While the White House has not explicitly confirmed a demand for a complete ban on all uranium enrichment for civilian needs, the direction of its policy points towards severely restricting, if not eliminating, Iran's indigenous enrichment capabilities. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio articulated this challenging goal on Tuesday, May 20, 2025, stating that the U.S. aims for a deal that enables Iran to have a civil nuclear energy program that does not include enriched uranium. He candidly admitted that achieving this will not be easy, acknowledging the deep-seated Iranian resistance. The rationale underpinning the U.S. stance is rooted in profound non-proliferation concerns. Allowing Iran to maintain an enrichment capacity, even under inspection, is viewed by Washington as inherently risky, potentially providing Tehran with a pathway to rapidly produce weapons-grade uranium should it choose to do so. A breakout capability. The ideal scenario for the U.S. would involve Iran relying on externally supplied fuel for any civilian reactors, thereby removing the domestic capacity to produce fissile material suitable for nuclear weapons. This position prioritizes verifiable limitations and aims to create a greater margin of safety by significantly rolling back Iran's enrichment infrastructure, a demand that directly clashes with Iran's insistence on its sovereign rights. This zero-enrichment approach, or something closely approximating it, garners support from certain policy circles and analysts who believe it is the most effective way to prevent nuclear proliferation in a volatile region. Behnam Ben Taleblu, from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, argues that Washington's insistence on zero enrichment is the only sober, sane, non-proliferation approach. He further suggests that the U.S. currently possesses significant leverage. According to Taleblu, Iran's engagement in the 2025 talks is partly motivated by a desire to blunt maximum pressure, prevent an Israeli military attack, and prevent European snapback sanctions, which, in his view, should empower the U.S. to demand more stringent concessions from Tehran, including on the enrichment front. However, the pursuit of zero enrichment presents formidable challenges. Iran has invested heavily in its enrichment program for years and views it as a symbol of national achievement and a key element of its technological independence. Persuading Tehran to abandon this capability entirely would require immense diplomatic pressure or highly attractive incentives, neither of which has proven sufficient in the past. Furthermore, verifying a zero enrichment scenario, especially if some latent infrastructure or expertise remains, would be exceptionally complex. The U.S. strategy thus navigates a difficult path, balancing the imperative of non-proliferation with the practical realities of Iran's deeply entrenched nuclear program and its unwavering political stance on the matter. The stakes in these U.S.-Iran nuclear negotiations could not be higher, extending far beyond the immediate concerns of Washington and Tehran to impact regional stability and global security architectures. Iran's current nuclear capabilities are a source of significant international concern. Reports indicate that Iran has stockpiled enough near-weapons-grade enriched uranium to potentially produce material for 5 nuclear weapons. This, coupled with its bolstered missile program, which could provide the necessary delivery technology, has alarmed proliferation experts and the United Nations International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA. General Jack Keane, a senior strategic analyst, has starkly warned that Iran is on the cusp of having a nuclear weapon, underscoring the acute urgency of finding a diplomatic resolution. The consequences of a failure to reach a comprehensive and verifiable agreement are dire. An unchecked Iranian nuclear program could trigger a regional arms race, with other Middle Eastern powers potentially seeking their own nuclear capabilities to counter a perceived Iranian threat. This would dramatically escalate tensions in an already volatile region, increasing the risk of miscalculation and conflict. Furthermore, a diplomatic collapse could lead to the reimposition or intensification of international sanctions on Iran, further straining its economy and potentially leading to internal instability, or conversely, a more hardline and aggressive foreign policy from Tehran. The specter of military intervention, though a last resort, also looms larger in the absence of a negotiated settlement. Amidst these complexities, the role of intermediaries like Oman becomes increasingly vital. Iranian Foreign Minister Araqchi himself alluded to the potential for progress through third-party intervention, mentioning Oman's solutions to remove obstacles as a possible way forward, though specific details of these proposals remain undisclosed. This highlights the need for creative diplomacy and the value of neutral actors who can facilitate communication and propose compromise formulas that might be difficult for the primary antagonists to table themselves. The agreement by both U.S. and Iranian delegations to meet again in the near future offers a glimmer of hope that such diplomatic pathways are still being actively explored, even as core disagreements persist. Ultimately, these negotiations represent a critical tightrope walk for global peace and security. The challenge lies in crafting an agreement that verifiably prevents Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons while acknowledging its right to peaceful nuclear energy under stringent safeguards. It requires a delicate balance between addressing legitimate security concerns, particularly those of the U.S. and its regional allies, and respecting Iranian sovereignty in a way that makes a deal politically sustainable in Tehran. The outcome of the talks in Rome and those that will inevitably follow will significantly shape the geopolitical landscape for years to come, determining whether the international community can successfully navigate away from the precipice of nuclear proliferation in the Middle East.